All right, so I got lots tonight, and I want to get right into it. But before I get into it, I want you all to stand up real quick. Everyone stand up. Okay? Everyone stand up real quick. Okay? Now, Becky, you sit. Now, everyone give a round of applause to Becky and GP. So GP's right up there. Everyone can look right at him. Okay? Everyone look right at Becky. Okay? Let's embarrass them for a hot minute. Okay, perfect. Now you can all sit. And for those of you who are new wondering, or if you weren't here last week, you're like, what the heck just happened here? So Becky and GP tag team and spoke last week and really brought a really incredible word last week. And I thank you for that, and I appreciate both of you for doing that and sharing your story a little bit. Sorry for embarrassing you, but you kind of already know that I'm not really sorry. So, but God really did some cool things last week. And if you're new with us, we're in a series. We're at the end of our series. What's your status? We've been in it for about 2 months. And so this week is our final week on it, called What's Your End Goal? And before I kind of get into it, I want to give you a little summary of the last 5 weeks or so. Because, you know, the week 1 was a long time ago, and some of y'all got short-term memory, right? You can't remember what you had for breakfast this morning. You know, yeah, Caleb's like, I don't remember what I had for breakfast. I'll tell you what I had, nothing, because I didn't eat breakfast, right? But I want to kind of do a quick recap for you if you haven't been with us for the past 5 weeks, and that way you kind of know what we're talking about, and then we'll get right into it. So week 1 in our series of What's Your Status, we talked about who are you? What does it look like to be yourself? And I talked about whether you're in a relationship or you're single, learning how to live through your singleness. And it's possible to live your life with genuine contentment, fulfillment, and joy as a single person. So we kind of explored some concepts around what it meant to be single, even if you were in a relationship, whether you're married or engaged or any of those things. And one of the first things we talked about was recognizing your identity, knowing that whether you're single, you're married, your bank account, none of these things defined you. Your relationships, none of those things defined you. So knowing how to recognize your identity. And the second thing was how to guard your heart. Learning that dissatisfaction can invite resentment, discouragement, and bitterness into our lives, and it deeply affects who we are. So we know we need to learn, wherever we're at, how to guard our hearts. And how do you guard your hearts? Well, we talked about learning how to spend time with God, aligning our lives with God's Spirit, knowing God's Word, engaging in rest, observing our boundaries, investing in friends, and serving out of the overflow of spending time with God. And then week 2, we talked about what's your flavor? What do you like? What are you about? Are you about hookups? Are you about a boyfriend or girlfriend, the ideal thing? And so we explored what it meant to be relationship, what it meant to be in a relationship, and that we were made for relationships. And part of understanding that is understanding where our goals are in our lives. And we kind of talked about what that meant, and, you know, I used the bow and the arrow and talked about how we have goals and we have things that are designed for us, and we set up and we have targets, and we take aims in our singleness and our relationships, and we want to... Martin got a little shook there. Don't worry, I don't have any arrows. I have one right there, but so for those who act up and talk too much, I will shoot you with one. Just kidding. All right, but we talked about how we have goals, and many times we want to aim and reach our goals, but many times we're blindfolded and we don't actually know in our relationships where to actually aim. And many times our targets and our goals are always moving. So we start to just shoot aimlessly wherever we want and start to take shots at things that we were never meant to take shots at and damage all the things around us. So we were made for a relationship, but we need to know that before relationships, we got to know who we are. And before the person that God actually made in order, He created us, He placed us, He gave us a purpose, and He provided us with an identity before another person. So we talked about Adam, and when God made Adam, He actually gave him life, He gave him a purpose, He gave him a place to tend the garden, and He gave him a purpose through that. And then finally, that God gave Adam parameters. So even in our relationships, as God makes us and creates us, He gives us parameters and tells us, here, this is what I've created for you, and this is what I've given you. Live within it. And then week 3, we talked about, let's just Netflix and you know what. Right? And we talked about what it meant to be dating and what dating looked like. And we talked about a couple of myths. And the first myth we talked about is dating is something that Christians are supposed to do because the Bible says so. That's a myth. Dating doesn't actually, in concept, exist in the Bible. But we talked about what do healthy friendships and relationships look like. And God says, hey, surround yourselves with good people. Bad company corrupts your character. Make sure you have good people around you. Second myth we talked about was dating was wrong. Well, dating actually has a place when you know what dating is, and that a date is an event. It's something that we use to get to know somebody. But you got to know things about yourself before you kind of get to the dating part. It's kind of like that second job interview when you go for a job interview. You got to know a little bit about the job, and the job's got to know a little bit about you before you commit things in a dating relationship. And the third myth we talked about is that dating is a destination. So we learned that dating really is an event. It's something that we use to get to know people, maybe more so than in friendship, but it's not really the thing that we sit in. It's a vehicle to covenant, a vehicle to marriage, to spending life with somebody else forever. And the last myth we talked about is that dating is harmless. See, dating costs you something because it's an intimate relationship. It's more involved than just friendships. And that if you don't guard your heart and you don't put the right things in place, that you can actually do damage to yourself and the other person. And then week 4, which was my favorite week, right? Muhammad's not here tonight, but we talked about sex, right? And we talked about, one of the first things we talked about is sex is good. And many of you were like, whoa, I would have never heard that in a church before. But sex is good because God created it. It was God's idea. And sex is not bad when it's done God's way. But it's a bad idea outside of the context that God created it for. And the second thing we talked about is because many of us take sex outside of God's idea, it becomes twisted and manipulated. And in that, we find that there are two kinds of sins, our actions and our thoughts. And usually our thoughts dictate our actions. So when we take sex out of God's idea, it forms in our thought life, and then eventually our thought lives determine our actions. But if we're willing to do it the right way, we learned that sex has a container in a controlled form, and it's marriage. It's marriage, it's being with somebody, spending your life with them, committing to them. And when we're willing to put it in the container of marriage, it's kind of like a dam where the water is contained, and it can actually provide power for a town. And sex in the context of marriage actually provides power, nourishment, fulfillment to two people in a marriage. So we said, well, what do we do with that, John? And we talked about many of us being in a place when it comes to sex that we all have different ideas. And I challenged all of us to surrender our sexuality to God and allow God to actually help us navigate some of those parts that we've messed up in or we're confused in. And then last week, Becky and GP talked about what it meant to belong together. So I actually want to give them some space to actually talk about it. I don't know where'd the mics go? You're pointing. What's there? Okay, so I'm going to grab a couple of mics here. I'm actually going to get them to talk about it, B4 and B5. I'm going to give GP B5. There you guys go.
Testing.
So our sermon, yes?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. So our sermon could be summed up in one sentence, almost one sentence, which is that the relationships that you currently have in your life will affect your future relationships. And one of the biggest, most important relationships that is going to affect your future relationships is your relationship with Jesus. GP?
Yeah, and just to build on that, it was also about how people aren't always going to satisfy us. It's never enough because we have infinite desires and we want everything in the world, but people aren't going to give those things to us, and only an infinite God can fill our infinite desires. So, yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Give them a round of applause. Yeah, that's fine. You guys can take it. So, that's a lot. I just powered through like 2-3 hours worth of content in probably like 5-6 minutes. And most of you probably sit there and say like, John, why can't you just do that every week for us? Doing like 6 or 7 minutes and we don't have to sit here for like 35. It's too bad. You're just going to have to sit there anyway. But tonight, I really think that God's got something really, really cool for you tonight. Incredible for you tonight. And as we wrap up this series, I had already written this sermon probably a few months ago, or this talk a few months ago, and by Thursday I completely scrapped it and rewrote it again. with a totally different idea, a totally different way of going. Like, if I was going this way, God's like, go this way, a completely different direction. But I really believe that tonight that God can actually do something with our singleness, with our relationships, with our dreams, with whatever we have. So, let me start here. Everyone got dreams? And when I say dreams, I don't mean like, going to bed and just like having sheep or whatever. Or if you're like me, usually in my dreams, which are generally nightmares, I get attacked by animals. And usually it's not like one animal. It's usually like a swarm of something. So it's usually spiders, rats. I've been attacked by, I don't know what they're called, a troop of penguins. I don't know what a group of penguins are, right? But I've been attacked by them. So generally, that's what my dreams are. But that's not what we're talking about tonight, not those dreams. I'm talking about like things that you have in your heart that you want to do, right? That you want to see, you want to accomplish. Anyone have those dreams? Legit, keep your hand up. Like, I really need to see it. So anyone got dreams, the goals, desires that you want to see, say next year, the year after that, 5 years from now? Okay, I would hope so, because otherwise, all y'all in high school, what are you doing? Right? You'd be wasting your time in high school right now if you don't have some sort of dream that you want to see, right? Some of you got, school dreams, education dreams, right? Who's in grade 12 right now? A lot of y'all, okay? So a lot of y'all are looking for what? Universities, right? Looking at colleges or universities or work. You've thrown out your applications, got your grades in. Some of y'all, I think this past week, most of you were on March break in high school. You did tours, yes, grade 12s. A lot of y'all did tours of universities. Michael's like, no. Some of you just know what school you want to go to. You just know. You already know that this is where I want to be. That's my dream. That's my pathway. Some of you got business ideas or side hustles, correct? Who's got a business idea or side hustle that they're involved in? Amir? Okay, Brianna, okay, a couple of y'all, Jay, Marvin, okay, some of y'all got some ideas that you want to see, you've got passions that you want to live out and work with. Jay, I know Jay over here. Everyone say hi to Jay. He's going to be super embarrassed, but that's okay. My man loves hair. He likes cutting hair. I know, I had to give context. Allow me to give context, okay? He likes cutting hair, right? He's a barber. And so you work almost every night after school at a barbershop, correct? You work almost every night after school at a barbershop, and then you do it on the side as well, right? You got your own clients, right? So if you want, your hair did, line up done, your fades, your cornrows, or whatever, go talk to my man over here. See, there you go. I just plugged you. Okay? Some of you want to be influencers. Some of y'all be posting on TikTok, all the challenges, dances. I watch some of y'all videos and I'm like, I have zero understanding of the purpose of this video. I'm like, you're lip syncing a song. I don't get what you're trying to do here. I don't understand. It didn't make me laugh. It didn't make me do anything. I don't know why it's on here, right? But some of y'all do it because what you're looking for, the view count, huh? John, did you see that I got 2,000 views on my video? What video? The one where I was lip syncing Justin Bieber? Okay. Some of y'all got goals. You got dreams to be influencers. Oh, that's unfortunate. Some of y'all got other ideas. You want to do something with your life. Brianna, can I put you on blast for 2 seconds? Is that cool? When did you talk to me? 2 days ago? 3 days ago? Wednesday, right? You came to me and said, like, listen, I want to do something. I'm like, what do you want to do? I want to start a nonprofit. What do you want to start a nonprofit around? I just want to help people. Cool. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about figure out what you want to do. Some of us got those ideas. Some of us have ideas of the perfect one. I want a man. I want a girl. I want to be in a relationship. I need a boyfriend. I need a girlfriend. Some of us have those goals. How many of y'all keeping lists on that? Some of y'all be writing the list of the perfect guy, the perfect girl. Yes, right? We write our lists out. Some of you want to pursue a career. You have a specific career in mind, right? Maybe it's athletics. Maybe you want to be a baller, soccer player. You want to go into something else in the educational field. Some of you in school, you love accolades. You love stacking your resume with, I did this club and this, and I did this and I did that. I was involved here and here and here. And you love stacking the resume in high school in order to pursue further dreams that you have. But how often do our dreams go according to the dream that we plan? Many times we dream dreams, we have ideas, and if we're being real, we all have some sort of dream in our lives, but how often does it go according to plan? And just like the dreams that you have in your life, whatever those dreams are, it could be, again, career, it could be side hustles, it could be relationships, it could be anything, whatever that dream is in your heart, maybe multiple dreams. Just like you have dreams, there are people in the Bible who also had dreams, who also had goals, who also had end goals in mind. And I want to focus on one specific guy today. His name's Joseph, and we find him in the book of Genesis. So I'm going to kind of go through a good portion of his life, but I want to start here on Genesis chapter 37, verses 3 to 11. So I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it quick because I got a lot of other stuff in there, but I want to give you some context to this, okay? So here's Joseph. So Joseph was born at a time when his father Israel was very old. So Israel loved him more than he loved his other sons. And Jacob, which is another name for Israel, gave him a special coat, which was very long and very beautiful. And if you want to kind of give yourself some context, you know, it was that nice bubble jacket. Okay, well, I know we're coming out of winter, right? Or it was that, where are my North Face people? There's some of y'all around here, right? That you know that $200-$300 jacket from North Face, right? That you want to have, but you don't want to buy. So you're waiting for somebody else to gift it to you so you can flex it. That's what Israel gave his son. Okay, so he gave him a special coat, which was long and very beautiful. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father loved Joseph more than he loved them, they hated their brother because of this. And they refused to say nice things to him. So it's kind of like, you know, your parents giving you the $300 jacket and then your siblings, you know, $25 gift card to Amazon. Right? It's kind of the same context. And I know some of y'all, if that happened at Christmas, that's a fight right there somewhere. Right? But that's what happened. So one time Joseph had a special dream, and later he told his brothers about this dream, and after that his brothers hated him even more. And Joseph said, I had a dream. We were all working in the field, tying stacks of wheat together. Then my stack got up. It stood there while all of your stacks of wheat made a circle around mine and bowed down to it. And his brothers said, do you think this means that you will be king and rule over all of us? His brothers hated Joseph more now because of the dream he had about them. Then Joseph had another dream, and he told his brothers about it. And he said, I had another dream. I saw the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowing down to me. And when Joseph also told his father about this dream, his father criticized him. His father said, what kind of dream is this? Do you believe that your mother, your brothers, and I will bow down to you? And Joseph's brothers continued to be jealous of him. So, just like Joseph had a dream, what does your dream list look like about your dream? See, Joseph already started to build his dream list out. He would say, oh, my brothers, my father and mother, y'all gonna bow down to me. I'm gonna be the top dog. See, many times our dream list kind of looks like this. We get a dream, okay? Then we want support. Just like Joseph, he went to his brothers and fathers. He's like, yo, look at my dream. And he wants support in it. And then we want the opportunity to see our dream come out, to come alive. And then through that, we want to see promotion, see it grow, and see it move towards the end goal, towards where we see that dream happening. Now, obviously for Joseph, it was to be the guy, number one guy in his family. And that's many times how we think life looks like. More so, we think like, you know what, I'm a Christ follower, I believe in Jesus, I chose him, I come to RY, I come to church on Sundays, you know, I'm involved, I serve John, you know, so I got a dream, so which means I got to see it, this is how it should play out for me, John, like I do everything right. I got a dream, so I need support, so I'm going to share my dream, I'm going to get support, and then I'm going to get the opportunity to see that dream come alive. And then through that, when I work it, John, it's just, I'm going to get better at it. I'm going to get promoted. I'm going to move forward. And then all of a sudden, I'm going to be exactly where I'm supposed to be at the end of it. And many times you go into dreaming with this idea of dreaming. This is how, this is the roadmap right here. We dream list. We put a list together. Okay? Oh, John, I want to be in a relationship. So these are the qualifications that I have down here for my guy or girl. And we look for support around it. You know, see, you know, I wrote this out. This is what I want. And then we start to seek opportunity based on our list. And then we go through guy after guy or girl after girl until we try to get to the end goal. So many times this is how we dream. But what actually happened to Joseph in his dream looked more like this. Put that next one up for me. And I will go through the story, but Joseph's dream actually resulted in him being betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, then falsely put in prison, but he still got to his end goal. He still got to see his dream. So Joseph still got to his dream. We have dreams in our hearts. We have things that are there. But the dream list sometimes doesn't operate the way we think it should operate. And many times this messed up way of how this, because I don't think anybody would want this kind of list, do they? Anybody want to be betrayed by your friends or family? Anybody? Anybody want to be sold into slavery? All right. Anybody want to go to prison for nothing that you did? No. But we all want the end goal. So many times, this messed up, all over the place pathway is what it looks like when it comes to our relationships, our end goals, and our dreams. But the cool thing is there's a beauty of God because he's in the middle of all of this. He's in the middle of all our relationships and all our dreams. And that season that we walk through when it comes to it, when it's whether you're single or you're in a relationship or you've got dreams or side hustles or education or this university and this career path, whatever that looks like, there's a couple of takeaways from Joseph's life that I think will apply to us when it comes to winning in relationships, winning in our dreams, and winning in the things that God has put in our hearts. So my question is, what happens when our dreams, our ideals, the things that we put on our list, our end goals, what happens when those things take a hit? That's a question I want you to ponder. What happens when our dreams and the things that we put on our hearts and our lives take a hit? What happens when we study so hard, we forsake everything else? We're like all about, by the way, for all those who are about education, I'm a big believer in education, okay? So I'm not coming for you here, but I'm going to use it as an example, okay? What happens when we give all our attention to education because we're like, I have to get into McGill University. I'm just going to use that one because it's not in here, around here. Okay? This is the school I want to get into. What happens if you didn't get in? What happens? What happens when you take a hit? You put all this work, all this attention to do it, and you didn't get in. What happens if you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to play basketball for 3 hours in the morning, and you play basketball, Stasi, sorry, you walked in, so I'm using the basketball example. You play basketball again at night for 3 hours. You've been practicing for 2 years from grade 7, grade 8, because you want to get on your high school ball team. And what happens when you don't make the cut? What happens when you take a hit? All throughout the Bible, nobody has ever been able to escape from taking hits. Nobody. There's nobody in life that has ever walked away from not taking a hit. But see, here's the cool thing. God is still faithful when you take a hit. When you take hits, when your dreams take hits, when your ideals take hits, God is still faithful when you take it. And just because you take a hit doesn't mean that your end goal is over. And it doesn't mean that you can't achieve it. Many times we get to the place when we take a hit, we give up, we quit. We see the first sign of trouble, we're like, that's over. That's done. I'm going to move on to the next. I'm unmotivated. It didn't work out. I went out with this guy. He treated me like garbage. So guess what, John? I give up on relationships. I gave everything I had to school, and I didn't get into my university. So you know what? Forget it. Forget education. I'm just going to go work at McDonald's. Not that it is, by the way, anything wrong with working at McDonald's, because I work there. Many times you get to a place when we take hits that we feel like we can't move on, we can't go, we can't keep going. I know that because I've been there. Before I got here to this church, that's where I was. I had a church who wanted me to come and be on staff with them to do exactly what I do here, but for them. And this was before I got here. I didn't apply. I didn't ask to be there. They approached me and said, hey, will you come and consider being our youth pastor, our youth and young adults pastor? And I'm like, I don't really want to do youth or young adults. No offense, like I love all y'all, but I really didn't want to do it. I'm really not about it, to be honest with you. I'm like, I'm tired, I'm old, I don't really have the energy. I got different dreams in my heart, to be honest with you. Different goals, I got a different dream list that I want to pursue. But yet, I felt God say, John, go for it. Like I'm blessing you to go down this pathway. So I went down the pathway. I applied for the job because I still had to go through the process. And it was probably, I've never been through this sort of interview process in my life. I probably did 6 interviews for this job. I went in, met with the pastor, did my formal interview, then came back, met with their leadership team. So how many of y'all are leaders here? Put your hand up, right? So I met with that church's youth leadership team, okay? It was a little intimidating. There's like 9 or 10 of them, and they're all just firing off questions at me. What would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation? And I just have to like come up with answers on the spot. Then they're like, okay, cool. Now will you come and preach for us? Come and preach. We want to test your preaching skills. We want to hear how you take apart God's word. So of course I go. I do my job, do my thing, kill them, say random things that I always do, right? Then they're like, okay, cool, now we want you to meet the board of our church, the people who make decisions with money. I'm like, okay, that's interview number 4. Okay, cool, make time, take their questions, their things. How much you want to get paid? Oh, okay, yeah, I want to get paid $65,000 a year. Because I'm like, you put me through 4 interviews, I'm going to ask for real money here. Okay? And then again, one more interview with the youth leaders, 5th one. And then a final one with just the pastor and their pastoral staff, because I would have to work with all their people. And I go through this whole process. It's taking 2 months. How many of y'all been in interview for 2 months? Okay, praise. Okay, you're the exception in your programming world. Rihanna, okay, for Service Canada? Okay. You got the job, right? 2 months. You expected at that point to get the job, correct? For a whole year process. At that point, you're expecting to get this job. After 2 months, I'm like, oh, there's nobody else. There is nobody else but me in this race. It's my job. Like, that's why I asked for real money, because I'm like, this is my job. There's nobody else left. And so the pastor's like, all right, cool. Just tidying up some things. We'll write you an offer. We're going to throw you an offer. We'll email it to you. You just have to either accept it or not. I'm like, okay, cool, bet. So me and my wife, what do you think we're starting to do? We're living in Oshawa. This church is in Brampton. We're starting to plan to move and sell and get out of our lease and all that kind of stuff like that. And the very next day, after interview number 6, I get an email from the pastor saying, we've decided to go in a different direction. We don't feel like you're the right fit for our church. 2 months, 6 interviews, absolutely crushed the preaching, answered every question that was there. And you know me, you know who I am, you know that I'm not going to not answer questions. And after 6 interviews, we're going to go in a different direction, John. How do you think I felt? Thank you. Who said that? Thank you. I absolutely felt like trash. Because what you don't know is that right before that, we had already said, okay, for our house, we're going to give 60 days notice because we're going to leave in 2 months. This job starts in March. We're leaving in January. We have to give our notice in January. And we gave our notice 2 days at the top of the month, so it's 60 days so we can leave. And then 2 days later, sorry, we're going in a different direction. But here's the cool thing. We don't quit when we take a hit. That's a hit for me. That's a hit for me. Because here's the thing. The Bible teaches us that troubles are part of our life. James chapter 1 verses 2 says, my brothers and sisters, you and me, you will have many kinds of problems. That's what the Bible says. You and me, newsflash, we're going to have problems. High school students, when you get out of high school, you get into university, you think you want the freedom to be 18 and 19, not have mommy or daddy telling you what to do, what time to come home. They keep texting and calling you. It's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock. You're ignoring all their messages because you just want to hang out with your friends. And you think, let me get to first year university and college. I don't have to deal with none of those problems. but there comes other problems. Where are all my university college people? Do you have other problems? Yes? Different problems, but there are other problems out there. You will face many troubles. But here's the second part of that verse in James chapter 1, verse 2. It says, but this gives you a reason to be very happy. Excuse me, Bible tells me that I'm going to face many problems, but that's the reason to be happy? That's a reason for me to be happy? Why would facing all kinds of problems be a reason to be very happy? Here's why. Your hits become the place where you build incredible credibility when you do not quit. Write that down if you're not paying attention. In life, when you face hits, you build incredible credibility when you do not quit. Because guess what? When I got that no in January of 2020, guess where I landed March of 2020? Right here. Right at this church. Because my father-in-law works at this church. He serves at this church. And we just needed a place to just land while we figured out what our next step was. And all of a sudden, what is March 2020? Anyone remember what March 2020 was? The start of what? We don't want to talk about it, but the start of what? COVID. And this church was not set up to go online. And all of a sudden, here I am, just a guy who comes to this church as a nobody, looking for my next step. And God's like, here you go. What do you mean, God? Like, why am I? There's no money here. There's no job here. He's like, yes. But there's an opportunity here. But I just took a hit. Yes. But trouble, you'll be very happy. There's an opportunity here. Are you going to quit, John? You're going to quit being who I've called you to be. Your dreams are still there. You get to make a difference. You want to make a difference. That's your dream, right, John? I'm like, absolutely. I want to make a difference in people's lives. Here you go, John. Here's an opportunity. Don't quit. And here's the cool thing. After that, James says in verse 3, he says, you know, when your faith is tested, you learn to be patient in suffering. And if you let that patience work in you, the end result will be good. You will be mature and complete. You will be all that God wants you to be. See, if I did not take my hit, and if I quit, I wouldn't be here. But because I chose not to quit, I chose to do what God asked me to do. I chose to take the dream that I had, rip up my list, and go His way in the middle of the hits. Now, all of a sudden, 2 years later, I've had 6 churches call me, asking me to be on staff with them and to pay me to come and do what I do here for them. And every single time, John has said no. What do you mean you're saying no, John? You're volunteering there. We're paying you. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good where I'm at. Because God says you will be all that God wants you to be. So no matter what troubles, no matter the hits, no matter the fall downs, no matter the scars, the pain, the hurt, God is with you. You will be all God wants you to be if you do not quit. Whatever dream you have in your heart, no matter the direction you're going, no matter the pain you face, no matter the hits you have taken, if you are willing to not quit, if you're willing to get back up, God's saying, I got you. I'm meeting you right there. Don't believe me? Let's keep going in Joseph's story. In chapter 37, verse 23 to 24, here's what happens. Joseph is told his dream. He's expecting the support of his family, his brothers, and then he's looking for the opportunity, right? Because that's the pathway. But here's what happens instead. When Joseph came to his brothers, they attacked him and tore off his long and beautiful coat. They really took his North Face jacket. They really did. That's not $300 no more. They just tore it apart. All the puffy stuff in there, I don't know what's in there, but I'm looking at all the North Face workers here because they'll know. What's in it? Just fluff? Okay, it's what? What? Like goose feathers. Oh, interesting. So there you go. They really tore that coat apart. And then they threw him in an empty well that was dry. And then when the Midianite traders came by, the brothers took Joseph out of the well and sold him to the traders for 20 pieces of silver. And the traders took him back to Egypt. Here's my next point. Betrayal and hurt will build you, not break you. See, many of you have experienced some pain and hurt, some real betrayal. Family, friends, job opportunities, whatever that looks like for you. You see, Joseph had a dream. He believed that he was meant to be the great oversight and leader of his family, of his parents, his siblings, and that his family would show him favor and then step aside to give him the opportunity to lead. He really believed that his family was going to step aside and let him be the leader of his family. Because he's like, well, God gave me this dream, so obviously I need the support and then the opportunity to take my promotion. But instead, Joseph, in his mind, with his dream and his list, would have, catch this, never left his dad's house to fulfill the dream and the end goal. See, for God to fulfill the dream that Joseph really had, and we'll get to Joseph's dream, like the real dream, the real end goal, he had to leave his dad's house. He had to leave mommy and daddy's house. But the problem is he would have never left under his interpretation of the dream, with his list. See, God says there is sometimes things that I allow because it's the only thing that will get you to move. John would have never ended up at Willowdale PC because he didn't want to work for his father-in-law. I didn't want the price tag that came with it. People looking at me sideways and saying, you're only getting the opportunities because he's your father-in-law. I wanted to build it my way. I wanted people to know that I'm gifted and that I got it. So I'm not going to come and work for my father-in-law. I'm going to go out and make my own path. But see, God looks at it and says, boy, I'm going to move you and allow things to happen because you won't move if I don't allow things to happen. See, when we move closer to his way, his plan, the end goal that he has for us, he wants what's best for us. And sometimes the best things for us is not the things that we put on our list. Because otherwise we get stuck on our list. Because the truth is, I'm going to pick on you for a second if that's cool, Yvonne. If it was up to Yvonne, she would have married a white boy. I put her on blast, but that was her list. In the middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan. Bunch of white boys around. Coming from a pretty well-off family yourself, not to put you on blast either. But that's all she had on her list until my man Chadwick rode into her life on that Black Knight life, right? By the way, if you don't know, that's Yvonne's boothang right there. You know, Chadwick looking like Chadwick Boseman. If we stick to our list, we will never move on. If you did not take hits from all the white boys, you would have never allowed, and I'm speaking for you would have never allowed God to move you from that place to move you into the king's palace over there. Wakanda forever, sir. Sometimes the pain and hurt we go through in our relationships, lost dreams, gets us from this place over here to where God actually wants us. Somebody get me a wireless mic, please, because this thing is all over the place. We got to be willing to move from where we want to go to where God wants to go. And sometimes the pain and hurt we go through is not meant to break us, but to build us. And you might not see it while you're in the middle of it. You might not see it past the pain or the hurt and betrayal, but God is setting something incredible up in your life. If you are willing to take the hit and not quit. Your credibility is tested and is built when you don't quit. See, half of these leaders, I tell you, serve as hard as they do, okay, because I'm putting in the work with them. The bar that they've raised for themselves is because I'm willing to meet them at their bar as well. They work hard, and I have to work hard. My credibility as a leader is tested and wins when I meet it where people are willing to meet it as well. And I have to know that, am I willing to keep going when I take the hits? Because even pain, hurt, betrayal, loss, trouble, failure, God still shows us favor. See, a lot of y'all are afraid to lose. You're afraid to fail. But failure is part of the process. Failure is part of the journey. Pain and hurt, trouble is all part of it. But yet, God still shows you favor. Yet, God still gives you the end goal. Again, you don't believe me. Let me keep reading the story of Joseph for you. Joseph was betrayed by his own brothers. His own family sold them into slavery for 20 pieces of silver. He wasn't even worth 1,000. It was 20. How many of y'all been betrayed on that level before? Because I promise none of y'all been betrayed at that level. His own brothers sold him into slavery. And he could have been mad, angry, frustrated. But if he sat there, he would have missed God's favor on his life. He would have missed the opportunity. Because in chapter 39, verses 1 to 6, this is what happens when Joseph is sold into slavery. The traders who bought Joseph took him down to Egypt. They sold him to the captain of Pharaoh's guard, Potiphar. The Lord helped Joseph become a successful man. Joseph lived in the house of the master Potiphar, the Egyptian. Potiphar saw that the Lord was with Joseph and that the Lord helped Joseph be successful in everything he did. So Potiphar was very happy with Joseph. He allowed Joseph to work for him and to help him rule the house. And Joseph was the ruler of everything Potiphar owned. And after Joseph was made the ruler of the house, the Lord blessed the house and everything that Potiphar owned. The Lord also blessed everything that grew in Potiphar's fields. The Lord did this because of Joseph. So Potiphar allowed Joseph to take responsibility for everything in the house. And Potiphar didn't have to worry about anything except deciding what to eat. In that second verse, it says, the Lord helped Joseph become successful. See, despite the dream, despite failure, God helped Joseph become successful. And he was with him despite failure. The crazy thing is, because Joseph was willing to take the hits and be willing to serve God and do everything that he was still called to do, not only was he blessed, God blessed everything else that Potiphar owned. Sometimes God's given dreams and desires into you, and it's not just for you. It's for your families. It's for your friends. See, God's put something inside of you to help lead other people into the place to discover their dreams. Discover who they are, discover their purpose, change the course direction of their life. But are we willing to take the hits, not quit, and keep going where God's called us to go? See, that's what Joseph had to do, and everything in there, God helped Joseph become successful. Many of you are out here wanting to be successful, wanting to be something, but have you allowed God into those parts of you? Because your success is here. It can only be defined right here. But God's like, yo, cap off. I got way more for you. Not only am I going to bless you, I'm going to bless everybody around you. I'm going to take care of all people around you. I'm going to make a difference in all the people you come near, touch, see, whatever. See, Psalms 55 verse 22 says, give your worries to the Lord and he will care for you. He will never let those who are good be defeated. We walk around life sometimes holding our failures, holding our what ifs so close that when it happens, we're like, see, it happened. I told you it was going to happen. But if you set your posture for failure, that's all you're going to get, failure. But my challenge is when you're dreaming, when you got that list, are you willing to rip that list up and say, man, I'm going to submit everything I am and not quit. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep being who I am called to be. I'm going to keep recognizing my identity, guarding my heart, discovering who I am. Ultimately, are you 100 in the season that you're in? Are you giving your 100% in where you are at right now? If you're in school, and I'm coming for all y'all in university, you got courses and classes that you're supposed to be at. Are you giving 100% to that? Even if you're like, I don't really need to be there. Like John, I could just do my assignment. I don't have to be at that class. Are you willing to give 100% there? Because God is the one that brings success. Are you willing to give everything you are right now with who you are and give your 100%? If you're in work, are you going to work and just saying, you know what? 9 o'clock's my start time. I'll get there at 8:59, 59. I ain't giving them a minute more, a second more. It's 4:59, 59. Like, as soon as I hit 5 o'clock, John, you don't even know. My desk is cleaned out, and I'm out the door. Or are you too busy counting down the minutes and the hours before you can get out and do your next thing? Are you giving 100% in the season that you're in? See, the reason many times we have to give our dreams and ideals over to God is because He's watching how you're handling the now, or what you got. Are you always complaining about where you're at? Like, yeah, I got into that school, but I don't really love what I do. I don't really love what I'm learning. Like, yeah, I'm in the program I wanted to be in, but I really don't care about this, or I don't care about that. Like, yeah, I know I needed a job. I got a job. I'm making money, but I really don't love it. But are you giving 100% where you're at, where who you are? See, what I love about Joseph is no matter the trouble he was found in, he was faithful in giving 100 to wherever he was at. That's why God said he was successful. That's why even though he was sold into slavery, even though he was a lowly Israelite in a captain of an Egyptian house, that captain trusted this lowly slave with his entire household. Because he saw how successful he was, and he saw the God of the gods work through Joseph's life. See, Joseph could have been mad. He could have been angry at his brothers. He could have sat in his pain and hurt. Some of y'all have been sitting in your pain and hurt far too long. You need to let that go. You need to be willing to take the hit and not quit, because it's going to kill you. And he could have looked at the situation. He could have been identified that he was a slave when he used to be a king in his house. His dad thought so highly of him. He had that $300 puffer jacket, and now he's just some lowly slave. He could have been angry, but yet Joseph gave his 100, and God blessed him and brought him success in Potiphar's house. Because I know we're in a relationship series, so I'm going to throw this in there. If you're single here tonight, stop waiting on somebody to come in and complete you. Make them fit in what you are already doing while giving your 100. Stop dropping your standards for somebody else to come and fill you because you only give him 50, so you want somebody else's 50. Live your life giving 100 and make them fit in. You will find that when that person ain't giving 100, they're not even worth your time. When you give your 100 despite the failure, God takes you to your next, and He takes you towards your end goal. I'm at the end of my notes, but I'm about to fly a little bit off autopilot here. I'm going to fly manual control here for a second with no notes. See, when Joseph was in Potiphar's house, he had everything. Potiphar gave him everything except for his wife. He was in charge of everything. And in verse 7, in chapter 39, it says, after some time, the wife of Joseph's master Potiphar began to pay special attention to him. And one day she said to him, sleep with me. See, when you are working in God's favor and He's bringing you success, it's going to attract people around you. You are going to have people who want your influence. You are going to have people who want to follow you. That's why all you men who play basketball, none of you are brave enough to come talk to me. You got to go through, where is he? Marvin. Where's Marvin? He's around here somewhere. You got to go through Marvin to come to me because he's got the influence. Some of y'all you're too scared to come talk to me to ask to use the gym. You got to go to Marvin because Marvin's got my influence. And which means he's leading all of y'all, so he's got the influence. You go to him. And just like when God is, because the reason, why do you think Marvin's got my influence? Because Marvin does almost everything I ask him to do. And half of y'all never see what Marvin does. He does way more than I give him credit for, to be honest with you. But he gets my influence, which means you are all, at least the guys who play ball, y'all go to him. Because Marvin's got John's influence, which means if we want to play ball, if Marvin asks John, he's going to say yes. That's the attractive thing about when you allow God to work in your life and let him make the success come alive in you. And that's what Joseph did. And he attracted attention. And if you drop down a few verses later, it says he was the only man in the house at the time. And his master's wife grabbed his coat and said to him, "Come to bed with me." But Joseph ran out of the house so fast that he left his coat in her hands. See, when you're willing to do it God's way, even when the opportunity presents itself on Snapchat, or if they be talking to you privately and ain't nobody else paying attention, for you to compromise your standard, if you're willing to give God your dream, he gives you the confidence to say no to things that in the moment make sense. Because remember, Joseph's successful, and this is a woman that's now got his attention. As a man, his ego is stroked, pride is stroked. Many of us probably would have said yes to that. But Joseph ran out of there so fast. And yet, in verse 20 says, so when he didn't sleep with her, she was so ashamed, she went and told her husband that, this man came on to me. Like he tried to get with me. And he was so mad that he threw Joseph in prison where the king's enemies were held. And that's where Joseph remained. So, my man didn't do anything. He was sold into slavery. He did everything God asked him to do. He served, he gave his 100, and yet the hits kept coming. Yet he still didn't see the end goal. And he had to take on something that he didn't even do. How many of y'all experienced some unfairness in your life that you feel you don't deserve, that you shouldn't have to go through? And yet sometimes when we take that and we allow God to work in our hits, when we don't quit, here's what happens in verse 21. The Lord was with Joseph and continued to show his kindness to him. So the commander of the prison's guard began to like Joseph. The commander of the guards put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners. Joseph was their leader, but he still did the same work as they did. He gave his 100 despite. And the commander of the guards trusted Joseph with everything that was in prison. This happened because the Lord was with Joseph, and the Lord helped Joseph be successful in everything that he did. And you're looking at me right now, you're just like, yeah, John, but where's the end goal? Where's Joseph's end goal? You said his dream was to be in charge of his family, that people would bow down to him, he would be worshipped. Where's the end goal, John? Sometimes, again, God takes us down the path that makes zero sense to you or me when it comes to our dreams, when it comes to our lists, our relationships, our goals. And as Joseph continued to do and give 100 in his season, he started to share his gifts with people. And as the story continues, and I want to read it because it's so long, he started to interpret dreams and visions because, again, that was the gift that he had. It was an area he served in. And so there were people in that prison, in the king's prison, that had dreams and they needed interpretation. And so he did it and served them that well. And he did it for a wine server and a baker. And then it goes on and it says 3 days later, it was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a party for all his servants. And at the party, Pharaoh allowed the wine server and the baker to leave the prison. He freed the wine server and gave him his job back. So this is a guy that Joseph interpreted his dream for. And it drops down and it says, but the wine server did not remember to help Joseph. He said nothing about him to Pharaoh, and the wine server forgot about Joseph. Still, even when we give our 100, we still take hits. We still take the hits. But I'm challenging you, can you take the hits and not quit? Because it was 2 years later that Pharaoh dreamed a dream that he was standing by the Nile River, and he had this dream and he didn't know what it meant. And then all of a sudden it drops down a few verses, and the wine servant remembered that Joseph had interpreted his dream in prison 2 years before, in jail. And he told Pharaoh, and then Joseph said to Pharaoh, both of these dreams have the same meaning. God is telling you what will happen. And he interpreted Pharaoh's dream. Here's the cool thing. 2 years later, being in jail for not doing anything to Potiphar's wife, serving people, serving prisoners, them forgetting about Joseph, leaving him in that prison. And all of a sudden, Pharaoh looks at Joseph and says, God showed these things to you so you must be the wisest man. I will put you in charge of my country, and the people will obey all your commands. I will be the only one more powerful than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I now make you governor of all of Egypt. We're talking about an Israelite boy in Israel that makes his way to Egypt, was in prison, and now is the second in command of a nation that is the king of the nations around them. That's like one of us going to America and the vice president or the president just looking at us like, yo, I'm gonna make you vice president. Like, you're in charge of everything outside of me, you're in charge of everything. See, the dream that God put in Joseph's heart was bigger than he could have ever imagined. Joseph wrote his list down and said, I'm gonna be in charge of my family. Here's my list. Here's how I'm gonna interpret it. I just need the opportunity. And God's saying, no. I got way more for you in your relationships. I got way more for you in your dreams. I got way more for you in your hustles. I got way more for you in your education. I got way more for you in your jobs. But are you willing to rip your list up and submit it to me and allow me, God's saying, allow me to take you on the journey to get you to the end goal that I have for you. Because the cool thing is, when Joseph was willing to interpret that dream that he had, that God gave Pharaoh, it was a dream that said that you're going to have 7 years of plentiful in the land in Egypt, and then 7 years of famine. And when Pharaoh made Joseph governor, guess what he did? He took that dream, he took that vision, and he said, all right, cool, let's put this into place. For 7 years, we're gonna get plenty, and we're gonna start storing stuff in the house, in the warehouse. Because when 7 years come and there ain't nothing left, we gotta care for the people. See, God gave Joseph a bigger dream than just his family. And what's really incredible is that years later, his family comes to Egypt looking for food and nourishment because the famine had hit their land. And he got a chance to serve them as they bowed down to him. See, God takes our dreams, our end goals, but he has a way, way, way bigger plan for you and me. I got dreams, I got end goals, and trust me, what I have looked at and I put in my list, I ripped that up years ago. Because the pathway that I was trying to go down for it, it wasn't working out. And now all of a sudden God has me on this like weird, windy journey for my dreams. And he's like, I'm getting you right there closer, man. It just seems like it's not coming together, but I promise you, if you keep taking your hits and you don't quit and you keep giving 100 where you're at, the end goals and the dreams that you have in your heart, God's like, I got you. I'm gonna make it bigger than you could have imagined. Because God's all about using us to influence people around us, to make a difference for his kingdom, to make a difference for the people that we come in contact every day with. See, our country is the most divided country in the world right now because of COVID. We used to be the country that was really nice. We no longer are. We're like top 10 in division, statistically. Most people are divided on almost every single issue. But God's like, hey, can I use some people to start bringing some unity back into the country? Can I use some people to love people even when your political views don't line up? Even if you agree with mask or no mask, vaccine or no vaccine. Can I use some people who will step outside of what they think the dream is and what they think their lists are, and be willing to bring it to God and give 100 despite the hits? I love God because, man, his plan is just way, 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 way better than mine. Way better. So I love it because I get to see God work in my life, get to see him work in the lives of others, and I get to see me step closer to my end goal. And maybe not the way that I imagined it, but man, it's way, way better and bigger than I could have imagined. So tonight, I want to do something incredibly practical with you. I'm going to get all my junior leaders to stand up real quick. Where are my junior leaders at? For those of you who don't know, we have junior leaders. Generally, most of them are in high school or first year university, and they serve you. They serve you from a place that they don't have to be honest. They're all high school. They could just come and they could just be part of it like you guys are, but they choose to serve and they choose to give you guys an opportunity to be here. So I commend all of you for stepping into your gifts and not quitting. But I'm going to ask you to serve this group here tonight. So there's some paper over here. I'm going to get you guys to come up, and you're going to hand a piece of paper out to everybody. And then, Paolo, beside you, there's some pens. Now, in front of you, if you all look down in front of you, there's some pens there, correct? If you need a pen, Paolo's got some pens over here, or you can hand that actually to one of the junior leaders. Junior leaders, just pop up here. There's paper right up here. I want you to grab a stack, split it up, and hand a piece of paper out to every single person. One of you might have to go up top and hand out some paper up there. And here's what I want you to do tonight. I talked a lot, and I really took up a lot of time tonight. But I really believe that what God can do tonight is really important. As you get your paper, you got dreams on your hearts. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. As for every single person here tonight, I'm going to ask you to write your dream. I'm going to ask you to write your list. Now, your dream might be, I want this guy or this girl. And maybe you start listing it out. He has to be this, or she has to look like this and sound like this. Or maybe it's a business idea. Maybe you feel like I'm called, or I have this dream to start this business. I'm really passionate about this. I would love to be a millionaire. I would love to do this. Or maybe some of you are saying, I want to go to university and I want to absolutely crush it. I want to be an A+ student. I want to be on honor roll. I want to do well in my classes. I want to have the right network, the right opportunity, the right co-op experiences. I want to be able to leave university and be able to get any job I want. Whatever your dreams are, it doesn't have to be one, it could be a couple. I want you to write them down on that piece of paper. I want you to write list it out. You may write your dream, but you might have lists of it, how you want to accomplish that dream, how you feel like that dream should go, the support that you need, the opportunity you need, the promotion that you need. Whatever that is, I'm going to give you a few minutes here. Write down your dreams and how you think you want it to go, the things that you want to see happen. So I'll give you one of my dreams so that I can give you an example. I want to have real estate property. I want to have real estate income. I want to be able to buy properties and be able to make money, borrow on properties, rent them all out, build my network, build my net worth, and allow my kids to have a good education. And I really don't have to stress or worry about what my future looks like, what my retirement looks like. So I want to be able to buy properties. And in my list, that's one. And then I have things that I want to accomplish. I want to buy it in this area. I want to spend this much money. I want to save this much. I want to do this. I want to have it in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Be specific on your list, whatever your list of your dreams are. Whatever that is for you, write it out. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Write your dreams. Put it on paper. Bible teaches us, make the vision, write it out. Make it plain. Write it down. Sometimes we get dreams and visions, we don't want to write it. There's something nice and tangible about physically writing it out. So you got dreams. I don't care what it is. It's your dream, and it's important. You might be dreaming about being a really, really fancy chef. You love to cook, and you want to have a banging YouTube channel. You want to get book deals. You want to be able to teach people how to cook. I don't know. Maybe you want to sing. Maybe you want a balling music career. I'm going to pick on some Christians. Maybe you want to be a worship pastor. You want to be able to lead music real well. You want to be able to stand in front of an audience of thousands and be able to lead people to worship. I don't care what your dream is. Just write it down. And be honest with your steps. Be honest with your list. I'm going to give you a couple minutes here. y'all need a few more minutes? If you need a few more minutes, just put your hand up real quick. Okay? Just if you're thinking about this, no one's going to read any of this, by the way. So that's what I'm saying. This is literally just for you. So be honest with your list. No one else is going to see it. Unless you want to talk to them about it or share it with the person, literally 0 people are going to see it. Including myself. Nobody's seeing this. These are your dreams, your passions, your desires God's put on your heart. Okay. Anybody else need time? Okay. 30 seconds. Is that cool? All right. You can write as much as you want, as little as you want. While Martin's writing, I'm going to tell you what we're going to do next year. So I'm going to read you what I wrote for mine. Okay? Now, this is not everything, but these are some of the most important things for me. Okay? I want to plant a church. I want to invest in leaders, the next generation. I want to do it all before I'm 35. By the way, I'm 32. I want to bridge political, racial, judicial, and ethnic gaps that exist in Toronto. And I want to see thousands come to know Jesus in Toronto before I turn 40. I'm 32 years old. Okay, these are all my dreams. And tonight, I'm ripping up my list. I'm giving my dreams, my end goals, the way I want to do it, the way I see it. I'm giving it to Jesus. I'm giving it to God tonight. Because my end goals and my dreams, the way I interpret them, are so limited compared to what God could do for me and through me. So tonight, I'm going to get you guys to stand up. And if you feel and you believe tonight that your end goals, your dreams, maybe God's been speaking to you, maybe Jesus has been talking to you this whole time, and maybe you've taken some hits and you feel like you can't keep going with it. But I want to encourage you tonight to take those dreams and the list, be willing to come right up here tonight and symbolically rip it and surrender it and give it to God and give your dreams and your end goals to Jesus and allow Him to create the pathway for you to see those end goals, to see those dreams come alive in every single one of you. So if that's you tonight and you feel, hey, and you don't have to. This is not a forced thing for anybody, but I want to give you space to surrender your dreams and give Him the pathway, the control, the ability to actually see your dreams come to life and see the end goal come alive in you. And if that's you tonight, I'm going to invite you to step up, stand here, rip it, and release it. Father, I just thank you right now, God, for every single dream that's here tonight, Lord. And Father, I just thank you, God, that every single student and leader that left their dream here tonight, God, and left feeling that there's a sense of control that they're giving away. But God, right now, I ask right now that you would give them a peace inside their hearts and minds, that as they release their dreams and their lists to you, Lord, that you would start to show them who you've created them to be. You would start to show them, God, that the hits that they've taken are not in vain, but they are building them, they're building their credibility to something far more greater, far more powerful they could imagine. So Father, as we've released our dreams here, God, I pray, Lord, that these dreams are alive in our hearts, God. And the way that we've released them, God, no matter what they are, I pray, Lord, that you would start to work pathways in every single one of us that gets us to live with 100 in our spirit, no matter where we are. Whatever we're doing in the right here, right now, God, I pray, God, that you would give us the confidence, the boldness to do it with 100%. And as we release the dreams to you, Lord, I pray that you would start to reveal the different pathways of success like you did for Joseph. You would start to give us windows of opportunity to see the success that you have for us in whatever those dreams are here tonight, Lord. So I thank you, God, for every dream, for every person here. I thank you, God, that you love them, that you've given them those desires, those passions in their hearts, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that you would meet every single one of these dreams, and that you would take them to their end goal, Lord, and you would show them how wonderful that your end goal is for them. And that while we're in the middle of it, God, while we're surrounded by the hits, I pray, God, that you would just be with us like you were with Joseph, and you give us the courage and the encouragement, God, to keep going down the path till we reach our end goal. And I thank you, God, that you are awesome, and I thank you, God, that you leave us stories like this, God, so that we can be encouraged to move forward and trust the pathway that you've laid out for us, even though it doesn't make sense. And as we release our pain and our hurt and all the frustrations unto you and our worries, God, that the end goal of the dream, God, would come alive in us. And that when we get there, God, we would be able to turn back and see how amazing and wonderful and sure and grateful you are for us. So, God, I thank you. I thank you. I pray, God, that you would just meet us tonight, Lord. And that you would pour back into these students and leaders, God, and you would fill an excitement, God, that be able to go another level up, Lord. I pray all these things, Lord, in your name. Everyone said? Amen.